So, sweet friends, we are talking commitment this week. There's 4 pillars of the cycle of courage. Cognition, which Joni, like, I love that. What power to teach adults who are going back to school or teenagers the power of their mind, and that their thoughts are optional. Like, their thoughts aren't facts. You guys also, I have a podcast. I am not a shameless plugger, but apparently I am right now. And on Monday, so the podcast that's coming out next week is on cognitive distortions. And these are truly my favorite things to talk about from the world of cognitive behavioral psychology, because they demonstrate that there are universal thought errors that our brains love to do. And that, like this, I'll give you one example: all or nothing thinking or black and white thinking. I can't be the only one, and newsflash, it's identified as one cognitive distortion. You know how we say God either loves me and is all for me when things are going my way, or God does not care about me and I feel abandoned when things are hard. That's that all or nothing thinking that is the cognitive distortion that we often see. You can look at that. It's black or white thinking. Either people love you or they hate you. I'm really good at this one. Like, you guys know, I talk about my strengths, and that is cognitive distortion. I've got a lot of those happening. So that's coming out next week. But so that's the one pillar of the cycle of courage, is cognition. The second pillar is this commitment. So we're going to talk about commitment today. Third pillar was connection and why connection matters. And that isn't just connection with others, it's connection. We did this mind, body, spirit connection, and then connection, and the big C connection with God. And then we have change as well, because we don't know how to change. We don't know how to process change. And we've learned what our brains do in response to change. So here we go. We're gonna decide, we're gonna talk about why commitment matters. Why it's so hard, which is what we want to know, why it's so hard to make a decision and commit to it. And also, like, really what it means to truly commit to something. And then I want us all to create an unshakable and courageous commitment together. I have 3 steps. You guys know I love a good step-by-step program. So let's just go big. And this, I want to be clear here, this is little c commitment. This can be commitment to anything. Let's say you want to be committed to a daily time with God. You want to be committed to eating healthy, exercising. What other things would you want to be committed to that I would love to hear them in the chat, or please speak out at any time. You can just feel free, because then I can coach around that and I can add that to the conversation. If anybody wants to commit, I say that there are big commitments, small commitments. Lisa Thompson, I don't know if any of you are in Lisa Thompson's class, but she calls it a covenant. My language, I did not go to, what would we say? Theology school? Is that what we call it? I did not go to church school. Seminary. That's the word I was like. Church school sounds.
If you're going to use the word school, you use divinity with it, but they are different things technically.
Ooh, this is. Thank you.
You act like. Hold on just a second, though. Doesn't she act like she has been to seminary?
I love you so much.
She totally has the wisdom of someone who has been
to seminary. I love you. But I was like, what is this? Like, she uses, I thought covenant was like a covenant made between God, like God and man, like the what we think of as covenant. But we can also define little c covenant as a covenant we make with ourselves and God to do specific things. So you can use any term you want to use. I use commitment, but you can use covenant. A formal, solemn, binding agreement. That sounds, And some of the research I have done, and I heard Kurt Thompson speak, and he says that we make too many commitments that we break. And I was like, yeah, probably, but we can decide to change. That's why he chooses little c covenant. But we can decide what we think about commitments, and we can decide to stick to commitments. Just changing the word isn't going to change. It's what we are thinking about. Okay, sorry, got off topic. So is there anybody that's like, I'm ready to commit to something? Maybe it's praying, reading your Bible. You want to honor your body. You want to choose life. I'm only saying this because this is what I'm doing. I'm choosing life by like eating and fueling my body in that way. Maybe you want to procrastinate less. Again, using my own personal, I'm just giving some ideas. Welcome. Hello, Maria. Okay, so I'm just giving some ideas. What is there, does someone want to name something that they might be thinking about? Thank you, Joe. Being more physically active. So Joni, we're gonna be commitment buddies. I just made that up. So if accountability. Okay, we've got Anne in the mix too. Okay, see, we're set. I love that. So we're going to talk about what it means to do that and what your brain will do in response to claiming that. Newsflash, it's going to panic and try to get you not to do it. So when it happens, you're not going to panic. You're going to know it's coming. And so what we're really doing with this commitment and this we're really making a commitment to bringing to light all the limiting beliefs and automatic negative thoughts that we've picked up along the years and saying, here it all is. I'm going to name it all to tame it all. And then I'm going to wire in new belief, new possibilities, new thoughts about my actions. I'm going to create thoughts on purpose to follow through on my commitments. And we've talked about this before in Romans 12:2. Paul understands and helps us understand the essential means of transformation, right? Is the renewal happens in our mind, in our minds. So we often think that we need to be more physically active. It's about the action. But in reality, of course, I would say this as a cognitive behaviorist, it's not just the action, it's the thoughts and emotions that are driving that action. And that is where we renew our mind every day in every moment to choose. We are choosing hard.
Jess, I heard earlier, and is it Joni who said about the exercise? This has like changed my way of thinking about exercise since I heard this. And it was someone recent. I can't remember who the author is, but I read that she said, I never break a promise that I make to myself. And I loved that so much. Like if I'm going to run on Thursday, I'm going to run on Thursday, no matter what is happening now. Like it has totally changed the way I think about exercise. And like, I always frame it now in terms of like, I said I was going to do yoga today and I'm going to do yoga today. Right. Like it totally changed my way of thinking. Cause it used to be like, if I have time for myself at the end of the day.
Amen.
And now it's like, I made a promise to myself to do this and I'm going to keep it. So I thought that was helpful to me. It made me helpful.
My gosh, I have goosebumps all over. So you guys know I use anchor thoughts. And that is one of the best anchor thoughts. I never break a promise to myself. Such good advice. And I'm going to write that, sweet friends, everywhere. I'm going to write, I never break a promise to myself everywhere. I need visual cues that I don't break promises to myself. Because if left to my own devices, I would forget that is my new anchored truth. And that changes the game. That says I am worthy. Myself, I love myself so much that I choose life. I choose time for me. And how many of our stories around food, around our bodies, around reading the Bible, around going to church, might have narratives that I always break promises to myself. Every time I follow a strict food protocol because of my autoimmune conditions. And so often my narrative was I break promises to myself. Like, why even bother? I'll mess up anyway. And so if I can shift the narrative to I always keep promises to myself. I love it in the positive frame, but I love whatever way. I always keep promises to myself. I feel, how does that make you feel? Let's run through the tear process. When you have that thought, the emotion that you have, I feel empowered. I make up emotions. So I would feel this. I'd feel ready. I'd feel a shimmying Jess. Oh, Anne says this. I believe, oh yes. And what action would you take? Well, you darn well gonna do the thing if you're like this. And Maria says, what if you want to exercise, but you were really too tired? Oh, Maria, we might have the same brain. Because that is
always would rather nap than exercise. I hate to say it, but it's just so hard for me to just get up and do it.
Amen. And so we look at what your thoughts are. Your thoughts are, it's hard. I'm tired. It will be like, we look at the story around exercise. Mine is I'll be too tired after to do anything. Like, we've got a lot of thoughts that go in it. And often it's our primitive brain's messages like, please seek pleasure, please stay at home and watch the Netflix. You guys know I gave up TV for Lent because I said every time I went to go turn on the TV, I'm a closet TV watcher. And it's out of control. Every time I would go to turn on the TV, I have to, I get to pray. I get to spend that time when I'm thinking about TV or watching, I spend it in prayer. Anywho, that's besides the point. But I'm sure it had a point, but I can't remember the point now that I've gone down that rabbit hole. But you understand that our brain loves to tell us it's too hard, you're too tired. My brain loves to use words and sentences in my mind, thoughts, to keep me stuck. Our primitive brain, seek pleasure, number one, that's what it's designed to do. Avoid pain, keep you safe.
I think also one of the things I have to reframe is like, what does exercise mean to me? Like, what does exercise mean? It doesn't have to be like 30 minutes sweating as hard as you can, right? Like, it could also mean like something that brings you joy and also is good for your body, right? Like, it could be walking outside or whatever. Like, there's like different ways to reframe even exercise itself, I feel like, to help you think about it differently. That's what so like, I have been on Jake for 11 years to like exercise, because he will put it as a very last thing, right? If I've done everything that I expected to do in his day, then he'll put it as the very last thing. So we've reframed exercise for him. We have reframed exercise for him, and that's the thing. But honestly, it's so important to me. I'm like, listen, we have 3 kids. You have to live. Otherwise, this deal is off.
Yes.
Right? Like, I can't do this on my own. So you have to live. So that reframing exercise has been a game changer.
Oh,
like, it doesn't have to be what somebody else's version of that is, right? Or the Instagram version of that. Good Lord. Sorry. I fall into that trap. I'm like, let me do this random exercise I saw on TikTok. I'm so glad this is recording.
I love that so much. Well, and also we have to look at our manuals for ourselves and what others put on us for what is healthy, what exercise should be. That's one of the cognitive distortions is should statements. I should exercise. Is that the truth? Why do you want to exercise? And when we create a commitment, we write down the reason why, because those are your thoughts. And it can't be someone else's reason for you, or it won't be long-lasting behavior change. People will come to me and say, I need to start exercising, but it's not a priority for them. And I hate to say it, but it won't lead to long-lasting behavior change. No offense, my sweet Abigail. It has to be that internal shift in the person's perspective. That is the hardest part, is that but I'm coaching people that are like, I need to start exercising. Well, why does it matter? Because I need to do it. Well, that's not going to fuel it. That won't keep us motivated. So many people have been sold a barrelful of lies from social medias and how we should do, what we should do, what we should act. I am honestly, I get a little like, even about how people say we should react to God or have a relationship with God, or how we should read the Bible. It makes me very uncomfortable. Shoulding, sorry, totally vulgar, but shoulding is not okay on anyone. And this is going too far. I'm so sorry. This is a church class, right? I don't know how to back myself out.
Have you really never heard Jeff make that joke before? Because he makes it all the time. He said, he always says from the pulpit, stop shitting on yourself.
He does not.
Yes, he does. You're good.
I can just should away. It's my lucky day. So I might even push the envelope far. Wait for it. Next week 8. Next week is our last week. So who knows what cuss words might come out of my mouth next week.
Jess, do you also feel like, are there any practices that are really reproducible? Like, you have to do it for yourself, right? Like in every area of life, whether it be spiritual formation or exercise or eating or whatever, right? Like, I think that comparison is part of the problem. Is that not right? Like figuring it.
1000%.
I think like the how of it is helpful, like the what of it is not, right? Like how you relate to God is helpful to hear from other people, but the what is not always helpful, because it breeds comparison and therefore frustration.
Absolutely.
And ultimately burnout, right?
Well, and we can say things like, in my experience, this is how I do it. And this is why I do it. And this is what I do. But this is your relation. So it is that understanding that we don't have the answers, that our manual for our life is not right for other people's instruction. Like, we don't get to say how they do that or shame them for not doing it in the right way. And we use shame as a weapon. And shame has become the ticket to change, to getting others to change. I think Abigail's just moving around to show off her camera at this point.
I am not. And if you keep talking about it, I'm going to go get my computer. Darn it. But I do like how you just called me out about the whole exercise thing and how I'm shaming Jake into exercising.
You are not shaming your husband into exercising.
I am, though. I am.
I don't believe that for one hot second. So good try. But I often that people need to change. Most importantly, my family. I mean, even my parents, my in-laws, my husband. I believe that I know what is in their best interest. I mean, I'm trained in this. Please let me coach you. No one signs up. No one in my family is like, yeah, I'm down for it. How dare they? A. B. Or secondly, I have to recognize that they have their own thoughts and their emotions and their own actions. And even though I want what is best for them, this is really my children right now, I need them to allow them to have their own path. I can encourage and believe and hope and pray, or my parents, for example, but it is not my job to be in charge of their experience or their relationship with God or their exercise or their eating. That's mine. I want to get everybody on the walls protocol because I'm convinced it helps my autoimmune condition. But I don't get to tell. I should be able to tell my husband how to eat, but he does not. He has chocolate chip sugar cookies in his car under the seat. And is that not awesome? And then he eats them and gives the kids. We have sugar in the house. I don't want you to think. Also, I believe that your commitment should be so strong to whatever it is that you can see all the temptation. You can see all the chocolate chips. And you can say, my vision to that is so strong that I don't need to take away all temptation. What would Jesus's story been if he was like, God, please take away all my temptation? It would make the 40 days. I mean, what would he have done? Gone to a spa for 40 days and been like, well, I learned it. We need to understand what our brain does in response to the temptation. That is the work. It's not the actual thing that we're doing. It's what is happening, how we're renewing our minds. So when we go to look at exercise and we're like, I need to exercise today. And if you want to use any excuse, I've probably thought it and then some. I'm too tired. My feet hurt. My head hurt. Like, I want you to think of, and my favorite thing to do is write down all your excuses. Because when you bring them on paper to light, they lose some of their power. And my favorite is, and then when you look at them, I want you to keep that list up. And then when your brain uses them, you're like, I see what you did there. Oh my God. And if you come up with a new excuse, then I think you should use that excuse and add it to your list. And then the next time when it comes around, it's a new excuse. Here's what our primitive brain wants us to do. It wants us to stay where we are right now. And when you go to change, it is not on board with that. And you have to use the power of your prefrontal cortex, your executive control center, to decide in the moment, I know exercise will make me feel better. That's mine. Mine is I choose life. Mine is I always keep promises to myself. And those are your anchor thoughts that you will hang up everywhere. You will tattoo on your wrist. I keep saying I'm going to get fake tattoos, have fake tattoos made of our anchor thoughts. Isn't that genius? It was more pricey than I thought. Maybe we could, right? Like, how hard would it be? I have a Cricut. I could no, Anne's crafty and Anne's on it. I know it. I love that how I just pushed Anne into figuring. I'm like, Anne, you can figure it out. But here's what happens.
What about just the anchor? Yeah. And then you know what your anchor thought is. Then we could like all have anchors, but we all have our own anchor thoughts, but we just remember. Oh, yes.
Is a symbol for my sorority. So I've been wanting an anchor tattoo forever, and I have lots of close friends with anchor tattoos. So I'm in.
Okay, in. You guys, that's really wild. At the the nurse that caught me in inappropriate posing with a heart at the cardiologist this morning, that I went too far on Instagram. Talk about those people that take inappropriate pictures just for Instagram funnies. And she caught me posing with the plastic heart, and I got really embarrassed. And I probably I probably over talked my way out of it, but she had an anchor on her wrist. Guys, okay, we're doing it. So I want you to think about this. You write down all the lists or all the excuses. And then you also write down that anchor thought. The other thing that I love to write down is LT over ST. We've talked about this in that change. And this is for Christian life as well. This is for little C commitments and big C covenant for the Christian life. Is that you need to be so committed to that long-term goal. Maybe it's heaven. Maybe it is grace. Maybe it is love. Maybe it is freaking exercise. Look at me, I'm so wild now with my bad words. I don't care what it is. When your excuses come up, when the short-term pain of excuse and seeking immediate gratification and pleasure, when that pain is like shooting at you, is talking to you, you need to be so committed with your prefrontal cortex to that long-term reward that you can override those short-term messages of fear and needing something. We look at that when it comes to emotions, right? People want to give up their coping strategies. My coping strategy is the Netflix. My coping strategy is wine. We're just going to be honest here. Like there's nothing that, like, I have a lot of coping strategies. But I know my long-term vision is one that is committed to feeling all of my emotions, because I know to feel it is then to heal it. And so when my primitive brain wants me to short circuit and seek coping for immediate gratification of getting out of that emotional feeling, I know that it's the long-term commitment that matters. And we all have actions that we want to commit to. So what is it for you? And you guys know I love a good Likert scale. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you want to change? 1 being 10 being, oh, I'm all in. Some people tell me 11, and I'm like, probably not. I mean, I'd say 150. So where are you on that scale? Can you hold up a number or tell me or shout it out? Like how committed am I to being physically active? 6. Some days 9, right? Ooh, Joni, this makes me count 8. I love this 5. That's it. Sounds like a good idea, but it is a lot of work. And this is what I also get in cognitive behavioral therapy. We expect people to do the work outside of sessions. And so we say, how willing are you to do that? And the dearest man who's a psychiatrist who's written 1,000 books on CBT is Dr. David Burns. Feeling Good, Feeling Great When Panic Attacks, if you need any CBT books. And he will not, and teaches his clients or his therapists, trained therapists, he will not work with someone if they will not agree to daily homework. Because he is looking for commitment. He's done research that says if they are not at a point where they're willing to be fully in, when their compelling reason doesn't matter enough, they're not going to change. They're not going to do the work for change. But I don't take that approach because I believe we all can be coached and learn, and I forget things. I forget to do homework. So I do not take that very aggressive approach.
How about the person who said, like, has 50 things they want to change at once, right? Like, how about the person who has a struggle even committing to like the one thing, right? Like,
oh, sister, I'm so glad you asked that question. It's like I gave you a question bank, but I didn't. I want it on the record that I did not. I get people who need to change every aspect of their life. They're like,
right,
I don't eat, I don't sleep, I don't
Right.
read enough books, I don't have
Right.
a job I love. And I'm like, whoa. Take a beat. Let's take a breath together. Let's breathe together. We look at why, I love that. We look at why they feel they need these things.
Mhm.
Because when we understand that we are worthy now, not for what we do, but for who we are,
Mhm.
nothing needs to change for us to be loved, for us to feel worthy, for us to be everything that we are. And so we understand that we are not in a race to change everything. And when we take that breath and when we allow God into our minds and hearts and bodies and spaces, we get clarity and understanding that there is nothing that is desperately in need of change. And then we get to make a choice. When you understand that you are worthy now and loved now, you can choose to change, but it isn't that desperate change.
Mhm.
And that is where people who are desperate to change, they change, but you have to back them up. I think this is why when people try to read books and they're like, I'm going to follow this and I'm going to do it, it's often they don't understand how to work with their brain, and so they're trying to change everything. One of my favorite books is by BJ Fogg. Is it called Tiny Habits? I think. You guys know how well I do with names of things and titles. And in it, he says, he believes like if you want to start flossing, he's a behaviorist. If you want to start flossing, you floss one tooth every morning, one tooth. So if you want to go and start exercising, I would walk down to the end of my drive and back, and I'd be like, I did it. So you're not looking, our brains want to go all in. We want to exercise for 30 minutes at a time, or it doesn't count, right? You have to baby step your way there, just like we do it with our thoughts. We have to do it with our actions too. Or guess what? There's this thing called burnout, and we're like, peace out, I'm out. I'm done. I tried it and I'm not good enough. I lack self-discipline. But when you understand that you're worthy now, not for what you do, but for who you are, it isn't the exercise. It's you. It's your thoughts and emotions about you. And beating yourself up won't change you or change your behavior. So when anybody's in a hurry, and you guys have met me, I'm in a hurry over everything. I'm in a hurry for God to answer my prayers. I'm in a hurry to teach you everything I've ever learned in my whole life. I talk fast. I need you to know I'm always in a hurry. And what does it look like to allow God into the space of change and allow God to transform our minds? And we don't get to control the time. I just wrote it to, hold on, I'm getting my morning journal. I'll be right back. It's just, I'm not walking downstairs. I didn't want you to think that I was going to go on a wild goose chase. But I was writing about when the pandemic happened and I lost all of my clients. Well, I didn't lose them all. Look, overgeneralization, I had 4 clients. And from then, April, until now, I have been able to work with 170 people. And here's the deal. I didn't trust I thought God is not here in this. And the moment I trusted the process, I didn't hurry, I didn't rush, because I was committed to serve. I was committed, I was called to service. That was my commitment, to give this message to as many people. I didn't count all of you in this number. So I'm gonna change my number, sweet ladies. But it's the same message, the same me, the same God. But I wanted to rush it. Did not trust God in the process. And when I released the control, when I released the force, that's where God stepped in. And I'm in a hurry, always. And that today, this is from today. I mean, you can't read my handwriting because it looks like chicken scratch. But it is when we force, we lose. And how do we allow, with grace and with love, the work in our lives? And that is the real commitment, and that is the real change. And none of this I have on my agenda to talk about today. So I hope you don't mind the winding route. So I want you to think about, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you want to change? Mine, when I wanted to serve, mine was a 14 plus. Like, I'm so ready, God. Why is this not happening? We could be so ready to exercise. And something stops us. Often in my work, I'll have clients draw where you are now. Let's say someone who doesn't exercise, totally fine. And you're going to look at where you are now, and you're going to say, I love me now. There's nothing wrong with me. This is why I feel really passionate about working with people who want to become healthier, and they're like, I want to lose weight. I'm like, nope, we don't. Where are you now? And love that now. Love all of it. Love the problems. Accept all of it. And then you're going to draw a winding road, and you're going to put yourself where you want to be, and you're going to label that. Maybe it's someone who exercises 4 times a week. And you're going to write out all the excuses, all the roadblocks, all the stop signs, all the red lights along the way. You're going to try to guess them. So when they come up, you're like, oh, I see it. Here's what happens. We get to a red light and we want to turn around and go back home. Not in real life, obviously. We wouldn't be taking our kids to school and come up to a red light and be like, that's it, kids, we're going home. I mean, I often want to do that. When I lived in London, that is exactly what I wanted to do, because you could be there for hours, right? Not in Wichita, Kansas. But we think in our brains that if we are going towards change and an obstacle, a red light, a speed bump comes in our way, we're like, I'm not meant to do this. God didn't want this for me. It wasn't meant to be. I love that I used meant to be. So we turn around and go back. What does it mean when we commit, when our reason is so compelling that we're like, I'm going to keep going even if there's a stoplight? What if we use that same approach to life? Oh my goodness. Why is commitment so hard? Because of our thoughts. Proverbs 4:23, be careful what you think because your thoughts run your life. Our thoughts. That's
Jessica,
why yes.
can I have a quick question about that? In going back to working with students, and they get so
yes.
close to the finish line, like they are committed and they're cranking their way through, and they're down to their last class before they graduate, and we might see them stop, and we can't figure out. So is that a fear-based thing? Are they scared once they cross that finish line, then they have to deal with something else? So that's what we deal with in the spring when we see these people go, and then boom.
It is like absolute, Joni, I have goosebumps all over because that is all of our lives, but it shows up differently. Change is so scary that our brains will sabotage us in every point. And we will come up with every excuse why we are not worthy enough to get that diploma or that new job or that our brains will design stories to hold us back. And so their sweet brains are like, you're not cut out for this. You don't have enough time. Your kid is sick. You aren't worthy. You don't deserve this. And when those thoughts are so deep and so embedded in the narrative, our primitive brain will find ridiculous, but it seems like truth, ways to hold us back. And I see that in coaching. I see it in adults, 70-year-old clients, teenagers. You are at the edge of the cliff and you turn around and run back instead of getting over to the other side because it is easier to turn around and go back. Joni, what do you think about that?
It makes perfect sense, and it just trying to coach people through that and say, you're so close, but a lot of times I think in my 20 years of doing this, it's a fear-based thing. I mean, they're comfortable with us and they're comfortable with what they've been doing. And so the thought of not doing that anymore and then what they're going to do next is so overwhelming. They just stop.
It is easier to stay here than open to the new possibility and newness. And also we are not taught to change. And I think with those stories, the way we have been taught, our attachment styles, of course I would bring in attachment styles to this, but hear me out on this. When we have found someone who makes us feel safe and feel good, like you do in your program, when every other person in their world or in their education has shamed them or said they are not good enough, they don't want to lose that. So they'll just completely just give up. It is fear, deep fear. So, and it's hard, Joni, because here's what we want to do. We want to say, let me show you what your brain is doing. I do this with clients, and if I push too hard, they're like, I'll just not coach with you. It is a delicate balance. People sometimes are so afraid of confronting the reality of their situation. Ignorance is bliss. So we will stay stuck. I use this example because it's easy and funny, but I decided after I got sick that I couldn't work. My excuse was I can't tax my brain because my brain's on fire and also half my side is droopy and my arm isn't working, or like I could come up with really good excuses that seem super legit, right? So legit, like something's wrong with me, I can't work. And so my coach said, so you can't, help me understand this. So you can't sit on the couch or like sit on the couch and type? I'm like, oh no, can't do that. She was like, could you try it? So if she would have said, I call BS on this thought, I would have shut down immediately. But instead, she didn't force, right? Maybe that should be our motto for today. There's no force. It is only through gentleness and compassion and love and the fruits of the Spirit that we change others. So by asking the right questions, I was like, oh my heavens. Okay, we haven't even created a commitment and it's 11:50. I just love talking to you guys so much. Joni, that is such a good question. And it happens to all of us, whether it's our students, whether it's our loved ones, whether it's people in the church, whether it's in our society. You know, I was equally fascinated and disturbed by the way people got to the edge of the cliff in this pandemic and turned around and went back because of fear. And hate is fear. So it doesn't matter what it is. It's the same physical, emotional, brain, and spiritual reaction. We turn away from God. We're right at the edge. We're like, I'm going back. I'm too scared. God hasn't met me, or something, some other story. Yeah.
I think it's also important to remember that like being in the wilderness is also part of your relationship with God. Like it's not separate from your relationship with God. And like, especially because I talk so much about doubt and doubt as a part of faith, that I don't want anyone to feel left out. That's like thinking I'm not ready to commit to something, therefore I'm not somehow doing what like God wants me to be doing, because the wilderness experience is also so deeply part of our relationship with God. And for some people that looks like wandering aimlessly, right? And it could be wandering aimlessly and also still not, like we have great examples of that where yes, they could have gotten to the promised land faster had they just listened to God. But also that whole process was a part of God's like working in them, you know? So like we see good models and we can be like, just teach me how to do that. And there's some people who are going to say, I see that good model and I'm not ready to embrace change. And because God is gentle, because God loves us that much, God lets us do that painful wandering. Like, it's like as a parent, when you see your kid, like just totally failing and you're like, shit, I have to let them fail so that they learn this lesson. It's horrible. Like it's excruciating. And I think that's a tiny microcosm of how God feels about us when we're doing that. And at the same time, it's still a beautiful part of the process. Like, I mean, I spent years saying that God wasn't real because I was so afraid to say that God is real, right? Like that we do that. It's a defense mechanism. It's a push against, like not only am I not going to jump off the cliff, but I'm going to push everybody else off the cliff, right?
That is, and you're going to run so far. I love that.
Exactly.
I was thinking about this pre-pandemic. We should all do this together. Pre-pandemic, Henry and I were really into, he's 12, really into escape rooms. And I think of life almost like an escape room. So he is the one, I'm like, let's get help, quick. I can't figure this out. And I'm like mildly hyperventilate, even though, we can open the door. We're not locked in there. We're not locked anywhere. But I'm like, we've got to hit the button. So someone comes and rescues us. And Henry's like, well, I want to stay here and figure this out. I don't want this. And this really is our two personalities. And I want to say that his way is wrong. And he wants to say that my way is wrong. We don't really say that, but let's, for the purposes of this analogy, let's just go with that. And how are we in our wilderness when we don't know what to do? We don't know what code is right. We don't know what lock to look under or what, you guys, I don't know if you've ever done an escape room, but they have like things under paintings, It is fast. Like you don't know where to turn. You don't know where to look. You're thinking it's all a wash. It's so ridiculous. That is what the wilderness is in life. And do you ask for help? Do you sit in that wilderness because that's what you need? Where are you right now in your own escape room? Here's the deal. You're going to find the right lock that fits in the right key, but it's going to take time. Like this, it sounds like a lot of work. It is exactly. And that's why our brains are like, I'm out, peace out. So where are you right now? You know, escape rooms have like many steps. I'm done at step 1. Let's be clear. Henry figures out step 1 and there's 7 more steps. And that's what life is. People come and they think that they'll just figure out their emotions and they'll be like, okay, well, I'm healed. It doesn't work that way. And God meets us at each point, is there waiting, is there for us. So I am going to, I just realized the time, we are going to create an unshakable commitment next week for our final week. Do you like, it's like building, and I'm practicing patience with you guys. So like I'm not forcing you to make decisions. So this week, I'm so good at this, aren't I? I just make this up as I'm going along. So wait, friends, I want you to think about what you want to commit to. So you don't this is me. If someone tells me to commit to something, I'm like, right? I'm a hurrier. So I'm like, I'm going to commit to, I don't know what. So I want you to commit to something. Think about it. And I want you to come and I want you to be able to tell each of us why it matters to you. Why does it matter? It might be exercise. Why does that actually matter? Not because someone told you it matters. It needs to matter to you. Your compelling reason. Or like my commitment was to service. Why did that matter to me? So we're going to wire in belief next week as we do. And I want you to come up with an anchor thought this week that feels good to you right now. My favorite, I always keep promises to myself. I am using that. I have not heard that, and I'm using it now forever.
Someone help me with the author. It's the Girl Wash Your Face author.
Rachel Hollis.
Rachel Hollis. That's who it is. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
she's the one who said that, at least that I know of.
Okay. Thank you. Smart friends. But you guys, thank you for this time. Thank you for this space. I'm so grateful. I am so thankful for each and every one of you. Thank you. Thank you. Please let me know if you have any questions. Don't forget, if you want to hear me, we talk about for the Feel Better Now challenge for 9 days, for 30 minutes each day, you can join me. Mindfulness, brain downloads, I know the tools but I can't remember them.
How does it happen, Jess? And how do we do it?
So you sign up and I'll send you an email with the Zoom link, or you can just watch the replay on the Facebooks in the Feel Better Now group.
Perfect.
Yeah. And you can also watch it on the Facebook. You don't have to join on Zoom. And so I'll just be telling you, you guys would mildly have to act like you haven't heard some of this information and be like, what? Our thoughts create our emotions? Like that, you'd have to do some of that. But I will also be sending, if you can't make it to the videos, I will also be sending out daily emails with the review and with the tool in it. So you wouldn't have to pretend that hard. You could just get the tool. Any other questions? What am I forgetting? Thank you, thank you. This is my first week of a teaser. I know, I feel so on fire. Okay, sweet friends. Thank you, happy Friday. Happy
Thank you. You're amazing.
Lenten season. Do we
you.
say happy Lenten season?
Sure.
Blessings
it's not
to
really
you. We're not supposed to be over, right? Yes, we're not supposed to be over the blessings to you this Lenten time. That was reflective enough, wasn't it? Bye, guys.
Bye.
If I can find where the off button is.
I was gonna say stop recording because I want to tell you something funny.
Oh, yes. Stop recording.
I'm sorry that I